of 1981, Robert Plant came to my university, which was University of Warwick in Coventry, with the Honey Drippers. It was a charity for concert for International Year of the Disabled. I took pictures. They were not very good pictures. The lighting was terrible. But like in a Bruce Springsteen song, I literally got a bus from Coventry, a bus or a coach, to Victoria, a bus station. And no phones or anything then, right? So I actually went to a phone booth, a phone box, and opened the Yellow Pages and looked for music papers. Now, NME was the music paper that I read, New Musical Express. I thought, who would be interested in Robert Plant pictures? Not New NME, Sounds. Called them. They said, come over to Covent Garden. I went over to Covent Garden. Eric Fuller, the picture editor, looked at my little portfolio, looked at the picture of Robert Plant, said, yes, we can use this. Can you write 50 words for a little caption for it, for the kind of news section? So, okay, I did that and said, well, if anything's happening in Coventry, which was where I was at university, in my third year of a PhD in law and public order, but imagine Coventry, the Specials, the punk scene, the Clash, the Jam, I don't know, the Members, Wire, the Damned, all these Stranglers, all these punk bands playing everywhere, Blondie, going to see a ton of bands all the time with all my friends. I had an office, they'd come to my office and we just listened to music. I didn't have any classes. I was supposed to write this thesis that I was not really getting very far on. So they said, well, if anything is happening in Coventry, we'll get in touch with you. I don't know how they got in touch with me, because a raven, maybe they sent a raven, because how did you get in touch with someone in 1981? I think a raven is probably the most reasonable explanation. The Specials are playing at Butts Stadium. I kid you not, Butts Stadium in Coventry. Do you want to take pictures? Yes. Took pictures of the Specials. Took a box of pictures back to London, to the magazine, to Sounds, and they said, well, look, if you were to come back to London, we could probably give you a lot of work. This is the middle of 81. And it was the end of the school year. I was nowhere near finishing my thesis. I was from London, so I moved back, and boom, 5 or 6 nights a week at gigs, sometimes 2 gigs a night. And imagine, 81. So I know that I saw the Clash and then the Ramones 4 days later. That same year, Stray Cats, Elvis Costello, the Go-Go's twice, I think. Just incredible. And then started doing pictures for features as well, and then for magazines, newspapers, record companies, and it just kind of took off from there. And then you're in it, so you don't really think about it. And that career lasted till 92, and it kind of tailed off because the early 80s was such an amazing time. 81 through 85, 86 for me was just, the Style Council, just Echo and the Bunnymen, just these fantastic bands that I loved. I went on the road with Red Wedge, which was a left-wing political group that Billy Bragg and Paul Weller organized. So I got to ride a bus with the Style Council and Billy Bragg and the Communards and Johnny Marr, and Lloyd Cole was there, and Summer Madness came along, and Gary Kemp from Spandau Ballet. It was incredible. And then I started I got hired to shoot a lot of stills on videos. So starting with ABC's Poison Arrow, which was directed by Julian Temple, that was kind of a mind-blowing experience. It was very visual because it was Julian Temple. And I did a really good job on that. That was just for a magazine. And then record companies started hiring me. So a lot of Tim Pope videos, The Creatures, The Style Council, Soft Cell, Pretenders, The Cure. And then I worked on 7 Eurythmics videos. And I was the only one who was really doing that as a really important part of their career. So I worked on maybe 200 videos that you over here would have seen on MTV. And American photographers covering videos would just do like behind the scenes with the camera crew. And I thought they were horrible pictures and they used flash. And I thought it was like, my job was to be like a Hollywood film photographer, movie set photographer doing Hollywood portraits. So I try and use the lighting and the set and the makeup and the clothing and everything to make great portraits. That was kind of my goal, doing that. And it was a really fun time. And then by 92, it was much less fun. And I'd already decided to move to the States. And when I moved here to the Bay Area, the music just wasn't as interesting to me anymore. And it was getting harder and harder and harder to work with bands.
What year was this when you were like?
Moved in 92.
Oh, so but that was like during the grunge era. So that's
Grungy.
kind of, yeah, it's kind of a
It
interesting
was.
time.
It was, but I was in San Francisco and I didn't get to shoot any of the grunge bands. I went to see Pearl Jam. I saw a lot of Neil Young's shows at the Bridge School benefits. So I was really into all those bands. And he had Tom Waits there, and he had Tom Petty there, and Bruce Springsteen. But that was as a punter. I wasn't photographing. So I did a bunch of stuff when I moved here for Vox magazine in England because I couldn't work for Americans, only English. I could only work for non-American based organizations because of my visa, because I didn't have a green card yet. So this one magazine, they sent me to LA a bunch to shoot Ice-T twice, Coolio, REM. I did the Lemonheads, Evan Dando and the Lemonheads, and Juliana Hatfield, PJ Harvey. Came down to LA to do Mazzy Star. And most of those pictures are gone. Most of those pictures I don't have, or I have hardly any of, and I have no idea why. Um, but REM, and the Verve, I spent 3 days with the Verve in Hollywood, which was a brilliant experience. But the magazine, the picture editor didn't like the pictures very much. So I said, okay, if you don't like those pictures, then fuck it. You know, I don't think there's any point us working together anymore. And that kind of was the final nail in the coffin. Oh, and Prince in San Francisco, but we didn't get to meet him. So that was the story. It was just, you used to be able to shoot a whole show, and then suddenly it became 4 numbers only, and then 3 numbers only, and then sometimes it was 2, and occasionally it was 1. I thought this is really unprofessional. You can't ask someone to do their job like this. And photographers were really disrespected because of the paparazzi at that point. They gave us all a really bad name. I wasn't as much into the music, although, like you said, there was grunge, and I loved Counting Crows when I moved to San Francisco. Um, but the final nail in the coffin was REM again. They were playing at the Shoreline Amphitheater, which is about a 50-mile drive or 40-mile drive from San Francisco. But Thursday night, it's 2 hours in the car, commuter traffic, and then you park in a field next to this bowl that's the amphitheater. And we got one number. And this was for Vox. It was for a big feature. They sent a journalist over from England, I think. And it was one number. And then after the one number, the security walked us all out of the shoreline. And I'm just standing outside there with my camera bag, like, what just happened? I want to see REM. I don't have a ticket. That had never happened in my life before. So I got back in the car, drove all the way back to San Francisco. So I did like a 4 or 5 hour trip for one number. And then this weird thing happened in the car on the way back. K-Fog was all the way back was playing It's the End of the World as We Know It, and I Feel Fine. They played it over and over and over again for the whole journey back. I don't know what was at the